So I just finished up a ATF inspection. It was either my 11th or 12th. I've been in business for like 32 years as a manufacturer and dealer. And I covered the full gamut of NFA items all the way up to destructive device. Usually it takes quite a few days to go through an ATF inspection because they check all the serial numbers on all your guns and they verify everything on the National Registry. And that's a course of business, one of the things that you should expect if you're going into that business. And over the last 3 years, I've been downsizing, moving toward retirement. And I've been working on 3 books, one on combat shotguns, one on surplus weapons, and then one on improvised and expedient construction for military and survival purposes. We just finished up, so I'm sorting, cleaning, and oiling everything and putting everything back. And a lot of the weapons that I have, most people have never seen them, including many people in the firearm business. And I've been in business so long, and I knew all the old dealers from the 60s and 70s. Back then, it was common for a Class 3 dealer or manufacturer to have several hundred machine guns in their inventory, because back then, machine gun prices were actually lower than what a semi-automatic would cost, because nobody wanted to deal with the paperwork or pay the $200 tax. So, for instance, you could get an M2 carbine for a little bit more or a little bit less than you'd buy a M1 carbine. And there wasn't a lot of demand for short barrel rifles and shotguns because nobody wanted to pay the NFA tax. Now, as a result of the price increases in the 90s after the machine gun ban, it became very uncommon for a Class 3 dealer to have a large inventory because of the escalation in cost. So I'm one of the last dinosaurs left, I guess, from the old days, because I got in right before the price escalation. Now, what we want to look at today is a lot of rare survival weapons. So people don't realize that the U.S. government had a big program for air crews to survive when they were down, because it would take days or months to rescue them in far-flung parts of the world. So especially all the B-52s, B-47s, and stuff that was in Strategic Air Command, they would have aircrew survival weapons to procure food until rescue could reach them or they could walk out. And it all kind of started in World War II. So in World War II, the US Air Force issued a lot of these 22-410 Stevens rifle shotgun combo guns, and they issued them in the full-length configuration like this. And for some reason, all the ones they procured had the Bakelite plastic stock on them rather than the wood. Now, the gun right below it is a survival gun that was made by AAI in California. That's the company that invented the M203 grenade launcher that Colt produced. And at some point, they made this short barrel version as an experiment in aircrew survival weapons. Now, when we were looking at the World War II air crewmen, the 22-410 choice was also accompanied by a 45 automatic barrel. So you could take a 1911 and it had a 7.5 or 7-inch smoothbore barrel that you could drop in a 1911, and they issued shot cartridges with it. So it was a 45 ACP shot cartridge that had to be singly loaded. So in some instances, you'd have this weapon and the 1911 with a 7-inch smoothbore barrel for shot cartridges. Now, back in the old days, a lot of 22s and shotguns and combo guns were not serial numbered because it wasn't a necessity until 1968. So this one, you can see Aircraft Armaments marked it, and they also serial numbered it so they could register it in the NFA. Now, after World War II, the Air Force came up with the M4 survival rifle, which is the one right below here. This one has a 14-inch barrel. It screws off, and it has a collapsible stock like an M3 submachine gun. This one fires 22 Hornet shells. And they put the lineman target sights on it so that you could easily shoot small game. This screw is the barrel retaining screw. You loosen that, and this 14-inch barrel will come off. Now, this takes apart into two pieces that are very easy to backpack or carry. This was one of the two choices that most aircrew had in their survival kit. They would either have this or they'd have an M6. I don't have an original M6. I have this one that Springfield Armory imported with the 18-inch barrel on it. The military version would have a 14-inch barrel on it instead. Now, it's interesting that the NFA pretty much killed short barrel survival guns for civilians. But a short time after World War II, the government decided that they needed short barreled hunting weapons to feed aircrews. So an interesting piece of trivia on these M4s is some of them were sold in Canada because Canada didn't have an issue with the 14-inch barrel. None were sold in the US to the civilian market, even though if they'd increased the barrel length to 16 inches, it would have been perfectly legal. Now on this side, I got a Marlin Model 70 Papoose takedown gun to give you a size comparison. And beside it, I have a Bauer Rabbit. The Bauer Rabbit was a 22-410, and you could also get it as a single shot 22. This is a break open gun, and it was sold extensively. It was manufactured overseas and imported by many importers. FI in Washington, D.C. was one. Now, sometime in the 80s or the late 70s, from what I understand, Springfield Armory, the civilian company that makes M1As, made these. So they would take and make a AOW, any other weapon, short barrel version, and they made it both in a pistol version as well as a short barreled rifle AOW version. And these, I believe, have 12-inch barrels on them. So what I will probably do is make a detailed videos on a lot of the interesting weapons I have as I move toward retirement and continue downsizing, and put them on the channel. So anything you're interested in seeing, let me know. And if I have some of that material, I'll do a video on it. So what we'll do is we'll make some videos of these different survival guns, and we'll shoot them and do some detailed looks at them so you can get an idea of what is involved with them. Now, one of the most interesting survival weapons was killed by the NFA, and that is the marble game getter. And you can see it here. This was a custom handmade holster that somebody had made for this prior to me getting it. And what I'll do is I'll take this out and show you what it looks like. So the marble game getter is a handgun with a folding stock. Most of these guns were made with 15 or 12-inch barrels. There were a very few made with 18-inch barrels. And then there was a straight handgun with no shoulder stock that had an 8-inch barrel. The 8-inch barrel one is very rare. I've only seen photographs of those. I'll go ahead and fold this stock out and show you what it looks like. So here we folded the stock out, and you can kind of get an idea of what this weapon looks like. And sometimes a 15-inch gun or a 12-inch gun does not seem like it's so much shorter than one that's 18 or 16 inches. But when you're handling it and moving around with it, It's quite a difference in how easy it is to use. The other thing to think about is all of these short barrel weapons can be fired one-handed. So if an air crewman, a survivalist, or a soldier is injured and only has one hand or one arm to use, the short barrel weapon can be used one-handed versus a 18 or 16-inch gun, which cannot be used one-handed. That's an important consideration in aircrew survival. That's one of the reasons these barrel lengths were so short. The other reason was storage space on the aircraft. Some of these were designed to be in ejection seat packages, so they had to be small enough to fit under the butt of the air crewman. Now, one thing of interest is the 410 shotgun shell is an evolution. It didn't start as a 410 shotgun shell. When we look at this game getter, you can read that, and what you see is the lower barrel takes 44 game getter cartridge or a 2-inch 410, neither of which are any longer produced. And when you delve into the 410, what you find out is the 44 caliber game getter was a shot and ball cartridge. So you could get 44 game getter with a round ball, or you could get it loaded with shot for birds. That evolved into the 2-inch 410, which later evolved into the 2.5-inch 410 and then the 3-inch 410. Game getters that are chambered in 2.5-inch 410 are pretty rare. Most of them were either 44 game getter or the 2-inch 410 shell. So this would be a reloading proposition in today's world. You'd have to make your own ammunition for it. So please share your thoughts, and we'll see you on the next video.